Meanwhile, I'm the high bidder on this jet with 3 days left to go in the auction when I find out it's Osama Bin Laden's Gulfstream. Alrighty guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another storytime video. Just when I thought the story times couldn't get any crazier than the previous 3 or 4 that I've told here on the channel, this story plops into my lap, this deal plops into my lap, this Gulfstream pops into my lap. That's right, we once again chased another dirt cheap abandoned Gulfstream, except this time it was owned by a very, very bad person, as you can probably see from the title and thumbnail. Let me explain. So once upon a time, a couple weeks ago, I was once again browsing the interwebs looking for some more crazy, cool airplanes with cool stories or cheap smoking deals, things that I could negotiate, get a great deal on, and feature here on YouTube. You guys have seen us do that countless times here on the channel, whether that's the abandoned $16,000 Zodiac 601 or the $10,000 Cherokee 180 that we rescued and saved. We love taking abandoned, forgotten airplanes and giving them a new lease on life. However, we've never done that with a jet before. You guys have seen on my first story time, the first one to go viral that got like 2 million hits, we talked about nearly buying a $100,000 abandoned Gulfstream G3. That was crazy, getting to like walk through it and preview it and like see this time capsule of a G3, which was maybe previously owned by BlackRock or something. Crazy ties on that one. Who knows the full story? That one gets pretty dark as well, but it is nothing in comparison to this latest G3 deal. Starting out, it seemed like a wholesome Gulfstream deal. An abandoned G2 actually, let me clarify, it's even older than a G3, so we're talking 70s vintage Gulfstream, which, oh boy, here come the haters saying that I'm crazy for even looking at this thing. But like I said, I've been wanting a cheap Gulfstream to feature here on the channel. So of course I'm interested when I get notified of a 99-cent auction for a Gulfstream G2 that's been abandoned for over 10 years. That's right up my alley. So immediately I start looking at it. The bidding is only at like $1,000. The bidding just started. So I'm like, oh heck yeah, this is gonna be good. So I immediately read through the auction description, go through all the pictures, checking this thing out, seeing if it's something I wanna bid on, right? So the description, classic abandoned Gulfstream, like missing logs, hasn't run in many years. In this case, I'm guessing since about 2015. I'll explain more in a second. Absolutely filthy, probably full of corrosion because it's parked in Florida, like the worst environment for having planes. I don't get why all these planes get seized and auctioned off in Florida. How about we do that in like California or Texas where they like stay dry and in good condition? With these auctions, when it involves a court case, it often takes years to get the plane sold, right? To get it to the point of going to auction, and they're just sitting there. Of course, it's due for all inspections, which for Gulfstreams, that is just a staggering amount of money. Like I think it's a 12-year inspection. It's like easily a 7-figure inspection. So to get this plane flying again would be millions of dollars, probably at least 2 to 3 million if I had to guess. You guys can go ahead and comment down below. But with that being the case, clearly this thing is gonna sell super cheap. So I wouldn't necessarily be buying it in the hopes for it flying again. I would be buying it to, I don't know, do something cool with a cheap abandoned Gulfstream. I still don't have an exact plan for what I would do with one day. As I've proposed here on the channel before, maybe we would turn it into like a photo shoot area for the fake flexers who wanna like rent a private jet for an hour to film content in, or you could like turn it into a mini Airbnb or something, or you could do all sorts of things with it. So the sky's the limit, but the hardest thing, number one, right out the gate, is just transporting it out of there. Oftentimes the transportation costs alone will outweigh the winning bid price. The listing describes it being in poor condition, needing hush kits. Of course, you guys know that from the last Gulfstream video we talked about. If it doesn't have hush kits, it's not stage 3 compliant, meaning you can't even fly it in the US until you put on these like mufflers basically, which as we learned from last video, they're like over $1 million for these 2 little circle objects that go on the back of the engine. Crazy. They say the paint's in poor condition. There's corrosion around the chin strap area, which is a common place to develop surface corrosion. It's got the Rolls-Royce Spey engines, of course. It's a Gulfstream, we know that. The Spey 511-8s, okay. Nearly the same engine that's in our NASA prototype fighter jet thing up in California. So sounds like the typical abandoned Gulfstream based on the description. Now they did talk about the history of the plane a little bit in the description. They said it was seized when it was coming in from Mexico and that the registration registration had just changed to an American N number, not the XB registration number that's on it currently. So that's kind of weird. It wasn't painted on the new N number, but it was like described as having an American registration. So I was like, actually that's a good thing. If it's American registered, it could transfer to me easier. So I'm reading through it. Kind of just looks like a typical seizure. Maybe it was doing some illegal activities, running some things across the border, and the government seized it. Not really sure. They don't really talk much about that. So I figured, you know what? Sounds good enough to me. Previous owner was in Mexico, got seized, come to the US. It's not that crazy of a story. Oh boy, wait till you hear what the story actually entails. But to me, I didn't know this at the time. So the bidding was at $1,000. So of course I tossed some bids on this plane up to like 5 grand. It's a no-brainer at 5 grand, right? So I just like throw on a few bids, and I'm like all excited about it. So once I tossed a few bids on the plane, I immediately call up our good friend Owen, because Owen has flown G2s before. He's the Gulfstream guy, right? So if we were to win this plane, I would need somebody to potentially fly it if it got back into flying condition, and that's where Owen comes in. So I'm like, Owen, yo, I'm about to buy this Gulfstream. It's gonna go super cheap. I missed out on the last 3 ones. I want this one. It looks like a decent enough plane. So he said his classic line of like, oh boy, you're out of your mind. This is crazy, but let me take a look at it. So he starts doing his due diligence on the plane, looking it up. And I was not prepared for what he would text me back on the plane. So about 20 minutes later, Owen texts me back saying, bro, that's the Bin Laden jet. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, here, look at the link, look at the article. So I tap the link he sends, and sure enough, this huge news article pops up. The reason I didn't come across this was because I searched the, I guess the Mexican tail number, and nothing popped up on Google. So I'm like, okay, there's no bad history on this plane, like we're good. But Owen searches like the serial number of the plane, and that's how he was able to find previous tail numbers, which linked him to this article where they talk about it being Osama Bin Laden's family jet. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't make this stuff up. So no joke, the title of the article is Osama Bin Laden's $4.5 million private jet impounded at Miami airport in legal feud between new owners. What did I get myself into? Usually with airplanes, when you have a well-known public figure previous owner, it adds value to the plane. But in this case, I think it bombs the value. So yeah, I immediately start freaking out. I'm like, holy crap, I cannot buy this plane with this dark history. If there was a list of like the top 10 most evil, worst people to walk this planet, I'm pretty sure he would make the list. So there's no way in good conscience I can buy a plane that had that awful family on board many times. You know, it was their family plane. So it went all around Saudi Arabia to all their different like oil locations. I had no clue personally that the Bin Laden family was so wealthy. I think their net worth was into the billions. Back in the 70s and 80s, if you bought a brand new Gulfstream G2 or G3, I mean, you were like rich of the rich, top of the top. I mean, adjusted for inflation, I'm pretty sure the plane would be like over $200 million. So to have that much money, yeah, like this was a big deal. So it was only for the top wealthiest families and organizations across the world. I don't know how many times Osama flew on this plane, probably a lot. I don't even wanna like think about that. Like this is just getting crazy. I'm reading more in the article. The article also goes on to talk about why the plane was seized. It wasn't just seized because, oh, the Bin Laden family owned it back when it was new. No, that's not the reason it was seized. It was actually owned by some guy in Mexico, and then he sold it to this guy, Jose Goncalves, who was arrested, and that's how the plane got seized, because he scammed the previous owner into like transferring the ownership to him without paying for the jet, apparently. It's super bizarre. He bought the plane for $1.5 million, and he was supposed to make 3 payments of $500,000 to fully buy the plane out. But apparently he only made payments up to like $800,000. And then he claimed that the guy, the previous owner, actually stole that $800K, and there wasn't supposed to be any money transferred on the jet. So this huge court battle ensued. Clearly, I guess Jose is in the wrong here because he got arrested for this. So I guess we shouldn't believe his story that this $800K was stolen from him and wasn't for the purchase of the Gulfstream, but it gets super weird. You can read the article, I'll link it down below if you want. So the important thing in this article is the date it was published, because this tells me when the plane was seized. Usually, for the record, these planes take about 1 to 4 years to go through legal battles, sentencing with the government and prosecutors. It is messy. usually 1 to 4 years. But this plane, this article was written in 2015. So it probably flew down there, maybe even 2014. So we're talking like 12 years. This plane has been sitting in humid, terrible environment, Florida. Poor plane, poor plane. Yeah, back in 2015, it was maybe worth $4.5 million, but now nothing close to that, as I figured. So immediately I'm like, I'm not bidding anymore. I don't want anything to do with this. It's like bad juju. This is, I'm gonna get flamed on YouTube. I mean, this is nearly as bad as like buying the Epstein jet, right? Like, and there are multiple Epstein jets out there and people have bought them. Like, I would never touch something like that, right? Bad on all fronts. So I immediately said, you know what? I'm not gonna bid on the plane anymore. Like, that's it, we're moving on. But one day later, I had a brilliant idea. So you better bet I was back interested in the plane, ready to buy this thing once again. Now you're probably thinking, what do you mean? What can change in one day? Why do you want this thing? Hear me out, hear me out. Here was my idea. So I have a friend named Cody, okay? Who's this Cody? This guy, you might recognize him. Yeah, this Cody. Whistlin Diesel on YouTube. If you live under a rock and you haven't seen any of his viral content, then you would have no idea who he is. But let me quickly explain. His shtick, his thing on YouTube is taking very, very expensive toys and destroying them. Like Ferraris, Rolls Royces, Lamborghinis, Bugattis, G-Wagons, Cybertrucks, all that kind of jazz. And yeah, that's what he does summarized in 10 seconds. So he gets millions and millions of hits. His videos probably average nearly 10 million views a piece, which I guess covers the cost of destroying said supercars. Whether you love his content or hate it, it is somewhat entertaining and shocking. That's why it gets so many views. Cool, that's his thing. We've talked before. Actually, funny enough, he reached out because he saw my original Gulfstream video, this one, the one with 2 million views. He sent me a DM. He's like, dude, this is so cool. Next time you find a cheap like Gulfstream or jet, let me know. Like, let's do something. Let's collab. So I'm like, okay, cool. That was like a year or two ago. So it hit me. I'm like, oh yeah, he would be perfect for this jet. Honestly, prior to this, I always felt bad about the thought of like destroying a plane with him because like, it's a plane. It has good parts. Like, it deserves to not be destroyed, right? But this Gulfstream, oh yes, it deserves to be destroyed. If you're going to destroy a plane, why not destroy Osama Bin Laden's Gulfstream? Like, brilliant. So I immediately text him. This is the funniest thing. Like, so I texted him with like 2 days left in the auction. I just sent a picture of the plane and I'm like, yo, any interest in buying Osama Bin Laden's old Gulfstream for cheap? It's up for auction and I thought of you. It would be a good one to destroy based on its terrible ownership history. And he replies, yes, please. Where do I find it? So yeah, he was immediately hooked. I sent him the link and I'm like, yo, it's coming up on auction like in 2 days. Like, we could totally buy this thing. Like, yeah, shipping it's gonna be a pain, but like, this would be the sickest content ever. Imagine that, like blowing up Osama Bin Laden's Gulfstream. Like, so he said he would check it out. And I told him, look, my guess is it's gonna sell for like 70 grand or less, just to give him an idea, right? I don't want him thinking it's gonna be like 200K and I don't want him thinking it's gonna be 20K. So he's like, okay, cool, I appreciate the input. We've been looking for a jet for a while now, but he didn't know where to start. So he's already plotting this video, right? He's like, we would probably film the video off site because he thinks his property is too small to like destroy a Gulfstream. Honestly, my plan would be to transport whichever jet we buy to his property and then we can just like start it up and like taxi it around. How sick would that be, just like ripping around like Osama Bin Laden's Gulfstream around his property before we blow it up. So fast forward 2 days, it's the day of the auction and I completely mistimed the auction. No! It was in the morning. I thought it was in the afternoon. In fact, I thought it was the next day. I was really busy that day. I was hanging out with my girlfriend. We were doing like Valentine's Day stuff and I completely missed it go by. You're kidding me. So I'm like, oh shoot, because I was supposed to check in with him like the day before to go over the game plan for bidding. So what do you know, I click on the bidding history to see what the plane sold for. Low key kind of hoping that it sold for like a ton of money so that I wouldn't feel bad because I was ready to go up to about like 50 grand on the plane. And what do you know? It sold for $37,950. Oh my gosh, that was cheaper than I thought it would. Oh, so I texted him, I'm like, Cody, yo, it sold for $37,950. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, sorry, I completely forgot about it. And he's like, oh man, like, it's all good. He said it was bad timing for him as well. He had just bought the F1 car that he just posted about. So I guess he was busy in like Europe. So unfortunately, it was just terrible timing for both of us. We both missed it go by. Yeah, no Osama Bin Laden Gulfstream for us. Dang it. So close once again to buying a cheap, abandoned Gulfstream. What do you all think? Was it a blessing in disguise that we didn't end up winning it? Am I crazy for thinking that this would be a good idea and like good content? Maybe I still would have gotten a ton of hate blowing up this plane with Cody. I'm sure some people would have been like,
oh no, I could have used that bracket for my G2. Like, those are very valuable parts that you just destroyed.
it's an old G2. There's not that many flying. They're all just being scrapped out at this point. So if we were to destroy a plane, I just feel like this would be the perfect one. I just think it was a huge missed opportunity. But then again, the cost to move it probably would have been like $50,000 minimum. What do you guys think? To move a plane 500 miles, taking off the wings, this is a massive Gulfstream, it probably would have been like 50,000 bucks. And then to like reassemble it on his property and then load it full of jet fuel and like put some batteries in it and try to make it fire up to like rip around his property, not take off because that would be illegal, but like as long as you stay on the ground, wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't that be cool? Maybe I'm out of my mind. Maybe this is just an insane idea. If it's not this one, then it's gonna be the next one. Maybe we should do it on a slightly smaller scale, get like an old, what's the next cheapest jet you could get? It would be like a Learjet. You guys saw Jimmy's World just bought that Lear 23 for $41,000 that would probably start up. So yeah, if we get just like an old Learjet, throw some jet fuel in it and just like try to start it up and like rip it on his property and then blow it up, I feel like that would be cool. You guys are probably thinking I'm crazy right now. Please hit me up, grgarage22@gmail.com, if you have like a crappy old jet that's worthless and you're trying to like get rid of it and haul it on out of there. Like, we might be interested in buying it. So please let us know. If you happen to be the one that did buy the Osama Gulfstream, then please hit me up. If you're interested in selling it, I think we are still very much interested. There's the story. I told you the story time would be crazy. Comment down below. Did we miss out on an amazing opportunity at a $37,000 Gulfstream G2? Or was this just another terrible JR Aviation idea and we're lucky it didn't happen? You guys seem to always be a good judge of that, so please comment down below. So thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe because we have the Malibu Part 3 video coming up. It is absolutely nuts. We got the new engine assembled, all the new parts, the annual is underway, and we might just have a first startup for you in that video. So you don't want to miss that. That'll be coming next. I think next video. Maybe we'll do a citation video. I don't know, it's been a while since we've flown that plane. So definitely like and subscribe so you don't miss future content. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope YouTube doesn't shadow ban my account now that I have this name all over my channel. We'll see. You guys rock. See you in the next one.